Scoop, scoop.
Welcome to Epic Sketch Time. My name is Mark Monlux. I'm a freelance illustrator and cartoonist living in Tacoma, Washington. I'm going to put a link to my store in the doobly-doo down below where you can see my books of compilation cartoon movie reviews as well as my your horror movie playing deck. And also my horror movie bingo cards. Crystal, do you have like a Etsy account or something that you sell your stuff through?
We had a store in the account. We are transitioning over to Gumroad now, but the easiest bet is just to go to waywardstudios.net because that has links to the store, to Jacosha, Aspect, all of our comic projects. What it doesn't have yet, though, is if you go to birdbrained.waywardstudios.net, you can see the entire gallery of the bird illustration set that I've been doing for the past, 6 months now.
Oh, good. I was going to ask you about that. Considering what the count is, I kind of was assuming you're either done or really close to it.
80 birds now.
I'm going to suggest that everybody put their websites that they want to have links to in the comments over here so that I can paste them into the doobly-doo down here and I won't have...
By comments, do you mean we should pop it in the chat box?
Yeah, in the chat box.
Okay.
And that way I'll put in the links later.
My two are in.
And Bill, since you were the second online, give yourself an intro.
Okay, I'm Bill Morris. I'm a cartoonist and illustrator and based out of Seattle, Washington, and I do a webcomic called Rhapsody at rhapsodies.wpmorse.com.
I gotta say two things. One, every time I see your name written out, I think it's Morrissey.
You would not
so it's funny to hear it out loud.
You would not believe how many variations I hear. I mean, the most common is Morris, but you'd be surprised how many people come up with.
Especially because it's only 5 letters. How many ways can you mispronounce it?
Of course, people. How hard can it be?
Ooh, I like that. That's good. But the second one is every time I look at your Rhapsodies updates on Twitter, I just think, my God, so many, because you have them labeled and you're like up over 1,000 now. And I'm just like, wow. I don't know many artists that have gotten anywhere near that many updates on anything. But yeah, as for birds, 80 birds now. My Excel sheet tells me so.
Very cool. Did you say and you said the final was 90? You were dedicated?
100.
Oh.
Because it was part of the Make 100 campaign, which was a gimmick that Kickstarter was running in February. If you had a campaign with 100 backer rewards or 100 of a given item, they would do special promotions for you. They're basically trying to promote like smaller, contained limit campaigns. Like they were trying to pitch that like you don't need to have a huge campaign to have a successful Kickstarter.
Yeah. Very cool. I mean, speaking of birds, I saw I had a really good sighting the other day, eagles at the zoo. And I know that sounds kind of like a big deal at the zoo, but no, this is the wild pair that live in the vicinity of the zoo, perched on a log in the elk enclosure.
Cool.
Very.
And actually, wait, is it 80? Okay, yeah, it's 80. For a second, I thought I might have hit 81. Because I can show you guys the ones I got done at the Saturday sketch group I'm part of. This one's a kakapo, which these guys are funny. They're a ground parrot from Australia.
I've seen them. Actually, New Zealand. They're flightless, and I especially remember one in this travel show that Stephen Fry did. One of them was trying to rape him.
It's going to have a real hard time. I mean, it might hump his leg a little bit, but...
Yeah.
No, it was going after him big time. It was...
Oh, wow. You're saying that kakapo had, like, murder in its eyes?
No, it looked... murder is not the word I'd use.
Wow.
Matter of fact, it left behind a little token of its love on Stephen.
Oh.
Poor Stephen Fry was, he handled it as only he could. But
Poor Stephen Fry.
I remember watching that episode and thinking, this show's not going to last very long now.
Only on BBC would that actually make the final cut. American television, they'd be like, yeah, we can't show that. That's getting cut. BBC, they're like, whatever, kids got to find out about it sometime.
So Ian's been so quiet in the background and so patient. Ian, introduce yourself and what you're working on today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ian Castrita, and I am an illustrator graphic artist out in Tempe, Arizona. And today I decided just to do a Legend of Zelda sketch, just because it's been on my brain, and I figured I might as well draw it instead of play it. So I'm actually getting some work done.
Nice.
But otherwise, if you're interested in checking out my artwork, you can go to unfedartist.com.
And you'll be kind enough to cut and paste that into the comment section for me, right?
Sure.
Thanks. If you take a moment to look at my screen, please guess what obscure horror movie alien I'm working on this week.
Something with a terrifyingly loud Hawaiian shirt.
Dang it, he beat me to it.
Damn it, I did that last week.
It's a monster with a really cluttered desk area.
Mm.
Oh, no, wait, that's me.
There we go.
Oh, he almost looks like Pizza the Hut, but like mellow.
So you may recall that there were a bunch of parody movies that came out, like.
Hey, Mark, can I stop you for a sec? Did you ever post the Hangout link for today?
Oh, I have not.
So I can actually send it to people to watch.
Yeah, I'll get right on that. This is from a movie called The Creature Wasn't Nice.
Oh, really?
I assume that's an understatement.
Wow.
Well, Leslie Nielsen was doing a bunch of different types of comedy, and he had such good success doing 2.5 Guns, or what was 2.5 Bullets, or what? Anyway, he started doing a bunch of different comedy movies. He tried to do a sci-fi one, and crapola is the only name of the word for it. Maybe the title just wasn't that catchy. I mean, who wants? But the song and dance that this creature does, I think it's called "I Want to Eat Your Brain," can be seen on YouTube.
It does a song and dance number?
Yes, they connect to it telepathically through a machine, and so the monster can communicate what it's trying to get across, and what it wants to get across is that it wants to eat them. So,
For some reason, this is reminding me of that strange. What was the name of that show Spielberg did? Not Amazing Stories, was it?
Stories.
Yeah, where these aliens go down to find vaudevillians, and they're singing the theme to Bonanza in their bizarre gibberish.
I'm just imagining like a monster that does a song and dance number that you're supposed to take seriously. Or was it supposed to be like...
No, it's a comedy. It's not supposed
okay.
It wasn't supposed to be taken seriously at all.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'm about ready to tweet it. Okay, just tweeted it.
Cool.
So it's a fair assumption that none of you have actually seen this particular creature.
I'm pretty sure I haven't.
Man, where did my stylus go? I'm usually very good about my Wacom stylus and putting it right back in the same location. But now I can't seem to figure out what I did with it. Ah, there it is.
So you linked the join the Hangout link.
Isn't that the right one to do?
If you want more people to join the Hangout with us.
That's what I want.
Okay.
Let's see. So there's a broadcast link somewhere. Let me take a look.
Yeah, there's usually, if we're doing a Hangout on air, if this is the same one that'll save to YouTube, there should be a live broadcast link. Though that might be, since it's through YouTube now, that might just be a matter of grabbing that from YouTube.
Well, let's see if it's happening on YouTube. Well, no, I got this thing going right now, so I don't want to mess this up by trying to.
All right, I found it. Okay, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, if you would put that out on my Twitter as well.
Yeah, I can tweet the link. That's just to view.
Oh, just to me? I thought no. Oh.
No, I'm just making a tweet, and it's going to have the link that's to view us sketching versus
okay
to join the Hangout.
Oh, yeah, great. Just include me in on that, if you would.
Oh, come on. Nope. Hate you, Internet.
Thank you.
There we go. Let's see. I'm going to make him pink.
So I was speaking with James Stowe earlier today.
Ah, is he coming back?
He still has connectivity issues with where he's living. So it just might not happen. But we were talking about other meeting locations for the other drawing group that he and I are in, that we do in Tacoma. We got some, there was an incubator that approached us and said, oh, we want to have you guys here, but they didn't quite understand the fact that we had no money. So.
Wait, an incubator approached you but wanted money?
Well.
Wait, as in chicken eggs or something else?
I was assuming like software industry style incubator.
There are things called business incubators, and basically they're buildings built up to help house startups. And they allow you to rent space that would otherwise not be available. Often these are, Bill, you're familiar with the Columbia Tower Club, right? And how that works?
Mostly. I mean, the only time I'd heard the concept of Incubator was that HBO comedy Silicon Valley.
That's actually where I first heard about them too.
Okay, so incubators, typically there's a couple businesses set up to actually help guide other businesses, but there are usually minor fees involved. But for the most part, it allows you to have access to a building and facilities where you can look very corporate, have someplace that's out of the house where you can concentrate, have conference room meetings scheduled, and be able to pull in higher end investors without, having to have a cup of coffee at Denny's. And some of these locations, you can have a variety of different things available to you depending on your fees. I know some places, I think the Columbia Tower Club is in the Columbia Tower, which is the tallest building inside Seattle. And it's located right at the top. And so to say that you're having a meeting there tends to impress people. And they've got, receptionists, all sorts of printing capabilities, meeting rooms, just a bunch of stuff that also an address where your clients could mail bulk materials to for like presentations and the like, so that you don't have to haul it from your house, that type of thing. Because a lot of people are, still doing their day jobs at Microsoft or what have you. Anyway, there's a place called the Union Club here in Tacoma that basically took part of an old Elks Lodge or the building next to it and has really spruced it up, and they're trying to get well known as a place to do this. And because we were freelancers hoping to get us to have our meetings there, and was willing to give us the meeting location free for a month. But I don't think they understand that we're trying to look for a permanent venue that's free, because nobody in this group pays any money. It's just, we just get together.
Yeah, especially because, are you talking about Claw or Cartoonist Northwest?
Oh no, this is a group called Freelance Fandango.
Oh, yeah, I don't know about their needs, but like, Claw or Cartoonist Northwest, like, any money you do make, you specifically give away every year. So, like,
well, that's not necessarily true, but
okay, I probably just misunderstood, because I know Claw gives that really generous scholarship once a year.
Yeah, but that's not all of their money. Claw's, one of the reasons Claw's so financially well set up is I set it up, their structure, so that even if their treasurer was a complete nimrod, they'd still make money. The budget is based on the previous year's collected dues, and income, only parts of income, some of the income goes completely to the scholarship fund. Other parts are only partial after covering expenses. So the Claw's got a nice, healthy bank account. Probably a part of that is because we were selling T-shirts for a while. We built up a lot of money to buy more T-shirts, and then we decided to stop selling T-shirts. Or rather, I decided that I'd stop selling T-shirts for Claw, and that they needed to get some other person in there as the merchandise czar. No one stepped up, so why print and buy and make more stuff if you don't sell it? So,
fair enough.
Anyway, I'm grumbling about that now. This is the first weekend in a long time that I did not go out and see a movie.
Well, we went out and we saw SpiderMan Homecoming this past weekend.
Oh, cool.
How was that?
It's really good.
Really
good. And it's like the third week it's been out, and it was a packed theater when we went there, which surprised the heck out of me.
Yeah, I saw it about 2 weeks ago. I was pleasantly, well, I mean, I'd heard it was good, of course, but for some reason I had somehow remained skeptical about it even after seeing 3 trailers.
Same here. Like, I'd heard lots of good stuff, but like, it had like a 92 on Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm like, it couldn't possibly be that good. It was really that good. It was really, really good. One thing that was actually awesome in that movie was the guy who directed it. There was some really amazing like visual comedy to the way they set up some of the scenes.
Yeah.
Which is really rare to see in movies, especially mainstream movies. And then the timing on the comedy was really good. Like, there were several parts where they really let the scene drag on just enough that it kind of enhanced just how funny some of the scenes were.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say too much because they also used comedy for a bunch of the reveals during the movie. Like, plot points that are like, when the next plot point is revealed, like when a secret is revealed, when the bad guy is revealed, is actually some of the funniest points in the movie.
Yeah, no, I mean... Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, it's go for it. I've been talking a while.
Yeah, I thought Keaton's performance made him the best Marvel villain.
It was so good.
I mean, as far as Spider-Man villains, he's the best guy they've had on film since the guy who played Dr. Octopus.
Yeah. So the parts where I'm talking about the timing, when you meet him like that last time, when you finally meet his real life persona, basically, you know where I'm talking about when they open the door.
Yes, without blowing anybody else, I know exactly of which you speak.
That was such a good. The timing on that part, like, yeah, everyone in the theater actually like gasped and then was like chuckling under their breath, like, while that scene dragged on.
Yeah, but I liked the fact that, I mean, the whole villains talking about their family is always almost cliche, but the way they made that so incredibly relevant to beyond it just being the villain's motivation. Yeah,
and as villain motivations go, I feel like that was one of the most empathetic villains of like any villain I've seen in a really long time. They did such a good job of tying in like his motivation. Like, he was still a villain, he still took it too far to the point that he became villainous, but like there were so many points in the movie that I'm like, shit, yeah, I can totally see why he did that. Like, it didn't seem ludicrous. It just seemed like a bad series of events and a couple bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
It made it a really interesting character to follow. You know, one thing that got me, and this isn't a spoiler, is you never hear the villain's name throughout the entire movie, and that got me because the villain's is the Vulture.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that until my husband pointed it out in the end credits, because the character is named by the Vulture and like his real character name.
Mm-hmm.
And that struck me as a little bit odd, because that really kind of wraps up that character to know that that's his villain name.
Right.
I could tell that it was the Vulture from the previews.
I'm not as familiar with the comic books, so I actually didn't recognize that villain, because I don't recall them using that character in the animated series that was going on in the 90s, and the animated series is really...
is your touchstone?
I don't...
I have not read a single Spider-Man comic, but I watched all of the animated series on its first run-through when I was a kid.
Yeah, in the 90s version, animated Spider-Man, they had a Vulture character, but it was a younger version who had briefly taken his place in the 90s. And the one where he is a fairly regular villain was in the next show, which was really good, actually. If it hadn't gotten... Unfortunately, they were forced to cancel it when Sony got the contract. A Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't even remember hearing about that animated series.
I found out about it almost by accident and only been watching it through YouTube videos, but it was really well done. Good concept design and really, really nice animation.
So I was talking to Stowe earlier today about movies, and he's working on a concept where he's, from an 80s point of view, movies in the 80s that were talking about what the future would be like in the year 2000.
Yeah.
So, and there's a bunch of them, like, oh great, now I can't.
I mean, there's the entire Road Warrior.
Blade Runner.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, have you guys seen the trailers for the sequel they're doing to that?
Oh yeah, it looks,
yes, very much. I'm very excited.
I wasn't sure about the first one, but the one that came out during Comic-Con looked absolutely gorgeous.
I keep telling my friend who goes to movies with me that he needs to watch it, but both times he's tried to watch it, he couldn't get through it. He stopped because he said it was too boring.
What?
And yeah,
I'm not sure if I've ever actually watched it all the way through for the same reason. But the last time I tried to watch it, I was also like 16.
The only movie that's happened to me was The Graduate, where it's one of those movies that you really shouldn't watch when you're 13. And even though I know it has the sort of dry sense of humor that I normally like in my dry, skeptical sense of humor that I usually like in my my comedies, I haven't had the nerve to give it the second try after getting burnt so bad at 13.
I can see that.
so there was Escape from New York, an 80s film that was set in the year 2000. There was...
And then they made a sequel to that one, too.
Yes, but it wasn't an 80s film. It has to be an 80s film actually set in the year 2000.
Okay, so you can't go with
wasn't Running Man?
2001 because that's 60s.
Oh, Running Man. I'll have to ask about
that might have been early 90s, because I think I vaguely remember it coming out in theaters. So that may have been early 90s and not true 80s movie. But it had that 80s sci-fi feel to it, where it's like this dystopia, and it's got like, you know, the hero is like sucked into this dystopian system and has to try and fight against it and doesn't like really completely succeed.
The one that everybody always brings up because the date, they were making a holiday out of the date, Back to the Future 2.
Yeah, I was about to say that one.
And let's not forget RoboCop.
Uh-huh.
But do any others come to mind? Because he's done a pretty good... I mean, there's Terminator.
Oh, there was one I was trying to say when you said Blade Runner, and now I'm trying to remember what I was thinking of. Shoot. I don't recall... Well, I mean, Gattaca's not 80s. Gattaca's 90s.
Yeah.
So I guess that wouldn't count. But I think that one sets the future in, like, the early 2000s or something.
Well, I thought we'd see Pat this week. Because it was one of his Twitters that reminded me that, oh yeah, I gotta do Epic Sketch Time today.
Considering you're usually the host, I'd think it'd just be like burned into your brain.
Well, part of it is if I know I'm going to have a busy week, I usually post announcements on Sunday to see if I can get a larger audience.
That makes sense.
And I put out the invites besides doing the email announcements. The email announcements are pretty much to the regulars. But I also do a Google invite. And we've been getting some people coming in from that, but I didn't put that out there yesterday because I wasn't quite sure whether or not I'd be able to host.
Gotcha.
And since there's basically this core group, I didn't know if anyone else wanted to take over hosting duties. I know Bill's done it for me before.
Yeah, though I did I botched it so badly.
You were only half an hour late.
The Planet of the Apes fit the bill, Mark?
Oh, that definitely fit the bill.
Does it?
Well, was it in the 80s? No, Planets of the Apes came out in the 70s, didn't it?
I mean, it was a series of like 6 movies, so it kind of depends on what. I mean.
And do any of them give a specific date?
I think a couple of them did.
One with time travel, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because there was the one that they basically went back in time and like tried to basically stop the monkeys from becoming sentient and ended up establishing a different timeline that wasn't as shitty, but still ended up with monkeys conquering humans, basically. Which is still better than the first movie. I mean, the world doesn't end up nuked.
That's the second one. Oh, right.
I really enjoyed the most recent of the Planet of the Apes movies.
So thinking, what about, I guess 12 Monkeys is also 90s, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a little too late. And THX, I don't recall if they gave a date, but that one also might have been 70s and not 80s.
I'm sure that's late 60s. Yeah.
Oh, really? That early?
It was one of his first films.
I knew that. I just didn't place it as like early 60s because I thought Star Wars came out like 1980.
Star Wars was 77.
Damn.
78.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Oh, it was the 70s. I was 7 years old when I saw it.
Star Wars most definitely came out in the 70s.
So a little shot of the preliminary. Yeah, get some light on it. See if I can.
Blackbird of some sort?
No, it's
actually just holding it up without the light. We could see it better when you put the light on it.
I know. I'm trying. The lighting's terrible for doing real drawings. It's a Clark's Nutcracker.
Ah, so I was one of a Corvid, but yeah.
I think so.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
I think they're in their own little group because they're the only one I'm aware that is actually called a Nutcracker.
I want you to.
The funniest part of doing this project is I feel kind of like a poser because the vast majority of the people buying my drawings know way more about birds than I do.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I didn't mean to show you off there.
No, it's fine. I think it's funny.
I don't know. I think Bill should cite his references, like which books he's using.
Mostly it comes from having Pep Peterson memorized as a kid. My dad says I'm too honest to be a proper bird watcher.
Too honest as in, like, do most bird watchers cheat? And they're like, oh, I totally saw this one bird the other day.
Not necessarily cheat, but a lot of them are almost as bad as fishermen.
Gotcha.
Well, I didn't start my life list until about 5 years ago, so I'm not including any of the birds that I saw in Japan. But
is that like a bucket list, but it's just full of birds?
A life list is where you actually write down the birds you see in your lifetime on where you saw them and on what day and at what time.
Damn. That's hardcore.
Very. Yeah, I come from a long line of hardcore bird watchers.
Otherwise, you're just some guy saying, "Oh yeah, I saw that bird."
When I don't go,
I think it was in the '80s. Yeah, that's it.
when did I do that?
I mean, like,
Talking about
people don't do that with, like, bison or, like, deer.
Yeah, the only deer I saw was a couple of whitetails when visiting my folks.
You know, I don't think I've actually seen many white-tailed deer. When I lived in Colorado, you saw deer, like, all the time, especially when I lived up in the mountains. It was usually, oh, crap, deer, swerve.
Deer, whitetails are mostly eastern. I think Colorado is still mule deer central.
They're almost all mule deers. It's really kind of weird when you see a white-tailed deer. You're like, hey, dude, your home is way back east. What are you doing here?
So my wife and I were when we were hiking along the Hoh River. We looked up and suddenly there's an elk in the path, and we were told, okay, if there's an elk in your path, just stay where you are until they see you and they wander off. So we thought, okay, that's fine, we'll just stay here. And then another elk comes out of the forest and into the path, and another one does, and another one. Now we're surrounded by elk.
Yeah, that's something they don't tell you is, like, generally elk are not solitary creatures. Most elk like to be in, like, really big groups.
And we're trying to not make any noise either because we want them to notice that we're there. But on the other hand, we're right in the middle of elk. They're huge. They weigh a couple tons.
They're like the size of a cow. That's the other thing you don't realize till you've been up close to them. They're like a cow that can suddenly get very angry and has pointy things on the front.
Yeah, I mean, even worse, I remember.
And can jump 12 feet vertical.
So eventually, the elk finally do notice us. And one looks over and huffs, and they all look at us. And we're thinking, okay, great, they're going to move out. They just completely ignored us. We were standing there for like 20 minutes before they finally went away.
I hope you took some good pictures.
Well, kind of nervous of using a camera. I did have my video camera, so I do have it on video.
So that's cool.
Yes. I had to stop using it because I was running out of juice.
I got another movie for you guys. I've only seen it once, but Brazil.
Oh yeah, Brazil.
Yeah.
Does Brazil give a date? I thought it was doing one of those sort of semi-alternate time period things.
I couldn't tell you.
I remember they having this thing, something next Tuesday.
That's a good one. I'm going to write that one down. So let's go.
Doesn't Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure also goes in the future really quick?
Oh.
Yeah, and that one also has a specific date because they were talking about making like a distant sequel with the same actors, and it's basically set in the date when they should have already made the world awesome by rock and roll.
Right, they're working on they're in discussions about the third movie.
You serious?
Yes, I am serious.
Oh man.
The two main primaries have been talking about doing a third movie for the longest time. They really want to do one.
But Keanu Reeves?
Yeah, Keanu Reeves and the guy who plays Bill.
I have not. I mean, Keanu Reeves, obviously, I know what he's been up to, but I haven't heard anything from the guy who plays Bill since the last movie.
Well, he actually went into software.
Ah.
And he teaches, he's a really smart guy. He does a lot of programming and teaches it. But he's more than willing to go back into the role again. And he's actually been fairly instrumental about getting the script done. Because, Keanu,
we love him dearly, but he's a bit of a putz.
Well, he's been very busy with the John Wick movies.
Mm-hmm.
One of my my town's claims to fame is that Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was filmed out here in Tempe.
So there really is a San Dimas?
Well, not really, but like all the locations that you could find them out here in Tempe, like the water park, and I think the Circle K that the phone booth first shows up at is still there, or the 7-Eleven, whatever it is.
No, it's the Circle K.
It was a Circle K. Yeah.
Circle K, all right.
Definitely a Circle K. Like, I have not even watched the movies, and I know that.
What, you have not seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
Nope.
You are culturally deprived.
We already know that.
I mean, I've been trying to put together a list for a book called Pop Culture DNA, movies that are essential to our pop culture, and Bill and Ted is crucial.
Oh, I'd agree. There is many a conversations that I become the brunt of a joke just because I haven't watched those movies.
I'll have to confess that I have yet to watch. Saturday Night Fever.
Me either.
Really? I just found out there was a sequel to that.
Oh, Staying Alive? Oh my God.
Was that actually a sequel? I just thought it had Olivia. It just had the same actors.
It was a sequel, and it was absolutely terrible. What happened was Staying Alive, Staying Alive, and Two of a Kind, which was a John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John movie, both came out the same summer, and those two bombs really hit John Travolta's career very hard. So he didn't do anything until Look Who's Talking, and then those movies weren't really taking him anyplace. And then finally, Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction came around and resurrected his career.
I actually really, really, really loved the Look Who's Talking movies as a kid.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the Look Who's Talking movies too.
Like, to a stupid extent where, like, I watched them, like, 3 or 4 times each.
I think Bruce Willis makes the movies.
He totally does.
Okay, so the third Look Who's Talking movie, where the dogs were involved. Who were the voices of the dogs?
Danny DeVito and Annie Hall. I hate it when I do this. Annie Hall. Bleep. What's her name? Diane Keaton.
Wait, it was 2 girls?
I said Danny DeVito and Diane Keaton.
Danny DeVito's not a girl.
I thought he said someone else the first time, though.
I said Annie Hall because I couldn't remember Diane Keaton's name.
Okay.
Huh.
So this lovely guy is about the most humanoid looking of the obscure movie aliens. This is from a black and white big bud film called Killers from Space.
Wow, it looks
Those
like,
eyebrows.
it looks like a 70s caricature from some old anime.
Or like something out of Mad Magazine.
I think that's one of my favorite drawings of yours, Mark. That's really that looks awesome.
Oh god, you know what I just realized is it looks almost like if the eyebrows were blonde instead of black, that could be like a caricature of Trump almost.
Now I'm really horrified about this.
That makes it extra good as a monster, right?
Why did that go?
There. Let's see how this... Let me know what everybody thinks here. I'm tempted to do it at a slightly different angle, but I think the basic idea is sound.
That reminds me of the villain and the
Wild Wild West.
Well, yes.
Wild West. Yeah,
Deer.
Yeah.
yeah. It looks
It's
like
not
a
him.
complete knockoff. Right down to the little goatee. Bill, are you sure you weren't influenced?
I was I was trying to think of an idea for a robot, and I decided to give it wheels. So, and
Yeah, we're not going to be the only ones that are going to make the Wild Wild West comment on that. I'm guessing you have not seen Will Smith's rather.
That was an odd movie.
I saw it,
Did
and
not do that well.
and as a Kenneth Branagh fan, you'd think I'd remember the that particular design.
What I always remember about that movie is Kevin Smith. Like I don't know if you guys ever saw any of his Evening with Kevin Smith videos, where he talks about writing the script for a Superman movie. But
Oh yes, he tells that one to everybody.
yeah, but yeah, he kind of like ties it into Wild Wild West, and so I can't help but think about that Kevin Smith like talk.
I've never heard about that.
It's worth a watch. I mean, you get a little bit of movie history. I can't remember if it's the producer. I think it's the producer, but he was just obsessed with spiders, and he wanted a spider in the Superman movie, and
then the black sidekick, was it?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a lot of like really just arbitrary, like nonsensical decisions, and then the Superman movie never got made. But later on, Kevin Smith watches Wild Wild West, and he's like, "There's a spider! It's a massive spider!" But obviously, he tells the story better. But
Yeah.
it's just kind of one of those like the craziness of Hollywood conversations, which is really just hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, every now and then I really, really want to believe that people go into the business for a love of the art, but then you hear these stories from the boardroom that make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, these eyebrows definitely need to be cleaned up a little bit.
Oh, the eyebrows are great. What are you talking about?
Look see all these little spots?
Oh, as in like they're gonna be a pain in the butt to color.
That's right. So
You could just do like a flood of color underneath them.
I like to drop color.
Yeah, but how much more time are you spending cleaning it up versus how long it would take to just put the color in manually?
You're winning that argument. I got to catch you.
I'm not going to make you change what you're doing. I just want to point out sometimes.
I just think that it looks messy.
And how far zoomed in are you?
200%.
That's it? At what size? Like, what do you have the...
At 11. It's at 600 DPI.
But wait, you're in Photoshop.
That's right.
200% is not to print size. That means you're looking at the pixels 2 times size.
That's right.
Which means you're looking... Okay. Your ruler up there, you're looking at 2 inches spread across your monitor.
Yeah.
You would never see that in print.
I would see it. It would bug the hell out of me.
Not if you put a color behind it. That's the end of me bugging you.
I'd also forget to do that. I just know myself too well.
I mean, these are going to be colored like your
and they're going to
like
be
your movie monsters, right?
right, and they're going to be reduced down to much smaller size. But I like to do big prints, and I like to have those big prints be nice and clean and perfect. And
Well, fair enough.
my
A little
wife,
more progress if anybody wants to look. It's mostly I got some more shading on the bird, and I put in the beak and feet. It's going to be a very pink and blue drawing.
Your bird drawings are beginning more and more elaborate, I've been noticing.
Part of it is I'm just getting better. I can do more in an hour than I used to. And part of it is, I don't know, just the more I do them, the more I get details in there. This one's not actually that elaborate. It's only layering warm gray 1, warm gray 3, cold gray 1, cold gray 3, and a pink. So like I've gone over it a few times, but this one I haven't actually gone as crazy with the sheer numbers of markers like some of the drawings I've done. You know, part of it is like I've gotten so much feedback every time somebody's like watching over my shoulder while I'm working on one. Like over and over again, I would get feedback that's like, aren't you going to finish that drawing?
Oh.
Like it would be done, but people are like, aren't you going to put a background on that? Aren't you going to finish coloring that? Is that all the color that's going in it? You're not done, right?
You shouldn't listen to those people.
Except those people are paying me.
They're not paying you enough.
No, they're not, especially when these were only $30 birds while the Kickstarter was going. But at the same time, like I said, like I can do a lot more in an hour, and I don't really feel ripped off if I get a really good bird drawing done in an hour. And in the future, I will charge more. Like if people want a bird now and they didn't back the Kickstarter, they are available through our Gumroad, but they're $50 now.
What a deal.
Oh, I should probably get that in. You know, and like some of it's worth it just because I've gotten, you know, you do anything 100 times and you'll get better at it. Unless you're just speeding through it and paying zero attention. And I'm just not the kind of person that can pay zero attention to what I'm doing. I've got a couple of bird drawings I'm not that happy with that I kind of zoned out while I was working on them. I have different levels of focus. I've noticed that over time that like there's definitely days where I can focus in better and days when it's hard. But I've also learned a lot about how to get myself to focus better and ways to kind of zone in when I can. It's part of getting better as an artist.
For that, or something that you do, or
mindfulness exercises mostly.
Mindfulness exercise.
I mean, there's a lot of things to if you can recognize yourself not focusing, try then also to recognize when you are focusing. You know, find what things take you out of the zone. You know, step, walk around. There's a bunch of different things. Like it would be hard for me to list off everything.
I was doing a very big project for Microsoft Word, or pardon me, for Microsoft, and I had to do a huge amount of work, just a phenomenal amount of work. And I normally, back then, I would put like 5 CDs into my 5 CD player and start chugging on through. And so I sat down and put some CDs in, and I started working away, and I was working away, you know, and thought, you know, I better look up. I've gotten so much done. I bet it's noon by now. And I looked up, and it was only like 10:30. I went, wow. And I realized that the music I had been listening to had acted like nitroglycerin to my system. And so my dirty secret is that bubblegum music, not like the Archies and the Partridge Family, will increase my workload like nobody's business.
That is utterly terrifying.
Yeah, when I really need to get shit done, I either put on really high-speed death metal or like really high-speed techno.
But I realized this was the music that I grew up with when I was a little kid on the television. So
Kind of makes sense.
I always listen to audiobooks, but I feel like sometimes I kind of relax and go slower because I'm partly paying attention to the story and also trying to do the artwork or whatever I'm doing. So it pains me to say it, but I probably need to stop listening to audiobooks. Although it's like one of the things that I really enjoy most about doing this is that I can just listen to whatever.
I never have that problem with audiobooks. It's very much a left brain, right brain thing for me. It's when it becomes a problem is when it's anything remote that remotely has a narrative. So, for example, with there's a stage in my cartooning where while it's still technically on the left brain side, it's almost goes into a category that I frequently find myself calling writing with pictures.
Like when you're thumbnailing and doing layout stages, maybe?
Yes, exactly. So in that case, I have to switch to the music.
Yeah, same thing here. If I'm in a stage that's like story writing whatsoever, whether it's script writing, prose writing, or like the thumbnailing stage, generally I want music that has like as few words in it as possible.
Yeah, I mean, anything does for me, but with me, the more abstract, the better. So classical and jazz are generally my first choices.
And, you know, there's actually studies that back that up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I read studies as far back as I wrote a paper on it back in middle school where I researched a bunch of studies, and there's like study after study that shows that music is very helpful for pretty much any kind of task where you need to do multiple tasks in a row. But if the task involves words, wordless music is better, and music with words in it will actually impair you from writing words.
Well, folks, you managed to waste yet another hour watching Epic Sketch Time. Join us next Monday when we should all be here once again. Maybe we'll have some more people coming in. I'm making a note right now of copying all the links, so please check out our links in the doobly-doo down below. And I think I mentioned last week that we're looking for musicians to give us permission to play their songs while we're drawing. So if you're a musician, would like to get some airtime on Epic Sketch Time, please leave a comment in the link below and possibly some links that we could start playing. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us, guys. Or thanks for having me, guys. I'll see you next time.
Okay, yeah, have a good one.